Hello, my name is Barbara Mazer, and I'm a business development executive for Adage Technologies, specifically working with arts, culture, and entertainment. Adage provides website design, strategy, and development for more than 70 arts and cultural organizations, including a growing number of museums. Philanthropy is an important aspect of your online presence, and my goal today is to provide recommendations and examples to boost your online presence and maximize opportunities for contributed revenue. First, a little about me. I've been working in and with nonprofit organizations for nearly 25 years, mostly in positions related to fundraising. I've been a development department of one, managed small to medium-sized teams, and provided consulting for development departments as large as 30 or more. When I started working in arts, e-philanthropy was relatively new, but now it's an expectation and a requirement. Here's a preview of what will be covered in this presentation. First, an update on philanthropy from news sources across our sector. Then we'll look at what implications these trends have for you and your online fundraising strategy. Next, I'll share some examples of museum clients we've worked with and how their digital strategies aligned with giving trends. Finally, we'll look at our recommended next steps to help you ensure your digital strategy is current and effective. Please feel free to get in touch with me after this webinar directly to discuss any of these ideas and examples. To set the stage, here are some recent philanthropy news from across the nonprofit sector. By the way, a list of sources will be provided at the end of the webinar, and I encourage you to read the full articles and reports for more information. First, some positive news. During a period that was challenging for so many, philanthropy was strong throughout the COVID pandemic. People were overwhelmingly generous in their philanthropic giving, even if they were experiencing hardships themselves. Many organizations actually raised more money during this period, thanks to the loyal friends who wanted to keep their favorite institutions solvent. Giving USA reported that in 2021, an estimated $485 billion was contributed to U.S. charities, which was a 4% increase over the prior year. The main areas of philanthropic support were and continue to be religion, education, and human services, which account for more than half of all giving. The arts, culture, and humanities sector received about 5% of total contributions in 2021, totaling about $23 billion. This was an increase from the previous year and exceeded pre-pandemic giving to the arts. It's a lot of money, but there's definitely competition for philanthropic dollars and a challenge to keep that positive growth going. Turning our focus specifically to museums, I'm sure I don't have to remind this audience that in May of 2020, 90% of the world's museums and cultural institutions were closed. However, many agile institutions saw it as a unique opportunity to try new things and reach new audiences. Digital strategies were rapidly assembled and deployed. Virtual tours, online curricula, and other educational resources were disseminated, which provided a lifeline to many who were isolated. A grateful public showed their appreciation, and philanthropic support quickly followed. Upon reopening, museums were particularly well suited to be places of refuge. A recent American Alliance of Museums blog shared that museums provided a place of safety, context, and connection, which was particularly important during such an unsettling time. Perhaps as a result, the Center for the Future of Museums and AAM reported that in 2021, trust in museums was at an all-time high. Why is trust important? Donors gravitate their giving towards places that they trust. I started with good news. Now here's the bad news. A study by the Fundraising Effectiveness Project found that while donations were strong, overall, the donor pool is shrinking. Large donations may have made up for that shortfall. However, in general, the number of donors is on a downward trend. Recent podcasts from iWave and Classy reported that donor acquisition is harder than ever. Donor loyalty continues to decline, and attention is harder to grab due to so many competing sources. Of course, I want to know why, and what can we do about it? One factor that I'll talk about today is the generational divide between traditional donors and emerging donors. the sake of getting us all on the same page, I'll pause for a moment to share the following definitions of the generations provided by Pew Research. For this presentation, I'll use the classifications that seem to be pretty standard across all the research on the subject of generational philanthropy. Typically, boomers, Gen X, and earlier are thought of as traditional donors. Millennials and Gen Z are emerging donors. Of course, to quote Pew Research, generational cutoff points are not an exact science. Technology in particular is a generation-shaping consideration, which accounts for this split. People my age or older were introduced to the internet after our formative years, but millennials and younger learned it very early or don't remember a time without smartphones or the web. Now that I've reminded myself that I wrote term papers on a typewriter, let's look at generational giving trends with an eye to how they affect your digital philanthropy strategy. It's probably no surprise that online giving has been on a continual rise since it was first introduced. It's up more than 40% in the past 3 years alone. This is even more dominant for emerging donors. Classy's annual giving report showed that more than 70% of Gen Z giving was done online last year alone. We also know that emerging donors are likely to come across your organization through social media or celebrity endorsement, and they may navigate to your website before actually even attending or speaking with anyone who works there. To keep your philanthropy program solvent, you need to connect with emerging donors. There is a huge wealth transfer on the horizon as baby boomers prepare to leave their money to millennial and Gen Z kids. And emerging donors are showing different behaviors than their parents and grandparents. Of course, there are always exceptions, but overall, younger donors are motivated by common values, social responsibility, and personal alignment with the causes that they support. This quote from Why America Gives is a good demonstration of socially minded giving. They're looking to not only make a monetary contribution and understand its results, but to become an integral part of the change those gifts create. Many see their donation behavior as part of their character and moral identity, which only strengthens their relationships with organizations. Your donors from a generation ago probably gave because their friends, employers, or neighbors expected it. And the top reason for giving, they reported, was the identity of the other donors. Rounding out the top 5 was who was on the board, how much board members and other donors gave, and their relationships to each other. Emerging donors don't appear to be swayed by those factors. They are more likely to tie their support to their personal values than what everyone else is doing. So, what are your museum's values? And how do you communicate those values to potential supporters? Next After lists the following aspects of a strong value proposition. Number 1 is appeal. Make people feel good about choosing you for their giving. Clarity. Easy to understand what the money is for and how it makes an impact. Exclusivity. While you are uniquely qualified to address whatever need it is that you are addressing. And finally, credibility, demonstrating that you are good stewards of their money. What this means for you. Now, let's tie those aspects of a strong value proposition to your digital strategy. First off, even just going through the exercise of developing a digital strategy puts you ahead. The Reboot series by American Alliance of Museums reported that about 1/3 of U.S. museums did not have a digital strategy at all before 2020. Many had to scramble just to get by. Now you can take a breath and focus on the future of your online presence. Let's begin by making this a working session. Take a moment to pull up your own website. I hate to tell you how few fundraising professionals take the time to navigate the donor journey on their own site, but we are going to fix that now. Looking at your site, here are a few questions. Why is your work important? What are your values? Why should people support you? What are your areas of greatest impact? How can donations make a difference? And finally, how easy is it to make a donation? Or how hard is it to avoid? Your site tells your story, disseminates important information, and completes transactions. This presentation is specifically about telling your story and accepting donations. I'll save the rest for another day. Now let's look at some examples of websites that demonstrate the following. a clear case for support with giving areas clearly presented, easy navigation of the giving path, membership matters, and finally, the website as a destination within itself. The Tech Interactive, located in San Jose, California, recently launched a new website that captures the creative, playful, fun vibe of their museum. Right when I land on their page, I'm immediately hit with their value proposition, inspiring the innovator in everyone. They present several options of how I can support their museum. And when I click into the easy-to-use donate page, I know what my gift will support. More on donation pages later. From the performing arts sector, here is the donation page for the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, a beloved, multifaceted art center in Washington, D.C. They have a lot happening on their campus, including many areas to support, so they must present a lot of information clearly. When I hit this large button to donate, it takes me to a screen with giving areas very clearly presented, which makes it easy to direct the gift to the right place. Also noteworthy is these giving levels are appropriate to the organization. Be aware of your audience. If all your online gifts are in the $50 to $100 range, it's inappropriately aspirational for your suggestions to start at $500. Younger donors especially are turned off by minimum suggested gifts that are more than they want to commit. Currently, the average gift made online to an arts and cultural organization is under $100. Also, special appeals propel action. This is sometimes referred to as crisis giving, like giving to an unexpected natural disaster. But in arts and culture, it tends to have more to do with educational and special topics of particular interest. So, what's going on of interest at your museum in the coming months? What's of interest in your community that might be tied to giving? With so many pressing needs out there, a regular annual campaign can get lost in the shuffle. A special project or initiative may attract more attention. Here's another example from the Tech Interactive, which provides more information on their special initiatives. Next topic, WAMISH, which stands for Why Are You Making It So Hard? As in, why are you making it so hard for me to give you my money? I'd like to personally thank Robert Friedman for giving me this book early in my career, and I've been using the term WAMISH ever since. Next After Institute did a study of more than 600 donation pages and found that most had a huge failure rate. Nearly 9 out of 10 donation pages visitors didn't end up giving. Consumers in general expect an easy online experience. Click, buy, done. The same person who's visiting your website was probably on multiple other million-dollar websites in the same day, and those sites probably made the buying experience really easy. This giving screen from Dayton Live is a great example of a simple form. The 2-column format has been shown to be particularly effective, according to Next After. Even how the fields are grouped can make a big difference. Back to a museum example, the Metropolitan Museum of Art has a clear and simple online donation form. And bonus points, they take crypto. Speaking of which, there's an increasing demand for multiple options for payment type, like PayPal and Apple Pay. It's worth checking with your payment provider on options, especially if you're seeking younger donors. On that topic, don't forget mobile. Younger donors are especially likely to tend toward mobile giving. But honestly, even my parents have smartphones now, so we shouldn't assume mobile use is limited to emerging donors. A study by Next After found that half of all website visits are from a mobile device. Most giving is still done on a laptop. However, mobile giving is only going to get more popular. So your site needs to be responsive and mobile friendly. Next, I'll touch on membership. There's a body of research behind why membership matters, like being a member of a civic organization or a religious institution. Being a member of a museum inspires loyalty, increases engagement, and encourages people to try new things with you. Why? Because mattering matters. Many of you, like me, probably studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so you know that once psychological and safety needs are met, the next level is love and belonging. Being welcomed as a member is a great way to feel a sense of belonging. The Met Museum offers many ways for people to become members, including affinity groups for donors under 40 and families. Patron circles, like those you see here from the Met, Allow people to align even more closely with your mission. Also, to pull from performing arts again. Your website can be the source for member-only benefits, like online concerts or exclusive interviews, such as this at-home series from SF Jazz. Finally, here's a great example of a site that is a destination within itself. During COVID shutdowns, there was a massive scramble to build online learning tools and connect with people who were isolated, especially children. Fortunately, the Norman Rockwell Museum didn't have to scramble because they already had a beautiful, content-rich educational resource, especially curated for learners of all ages. Truly, if you've got some time, I highly recommend reading through their site. It's really beautiful. I hope you feel inspired for your next steps. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Your website tells your story. If I knew nothing about you, what would I learn in the first 10 seconds on your site? What are your values, and what is your purpose? What's the impact of my donation? And why is your museum uniquely qualified to serve that need? When it comes time to accept the gift, remember Wamish. Make the process easy, easy, easy. Require the minimum number of fields for people to fill out if at all possible, and make sure the flow is logical and simple. Also, this may sound like a silly recommendation, but please take a moment to make sure your Donate Now button actually goes to a donate page. I don't even want to tell you how often that isn't the case. To summarize, our beloved chosen field of philanthropy is still going strong. About half the households across the U.S. give money to charity. However, don't take people's generosity for granted. While many of your loyal friends continued to support you through the pandemic, there's a lot of competition for donor dollars. There are 1.8 million nonprofits registered in the U.S. alone, and upwards of 70% of them rely on donations. You're not the only one asking for support, especially during periods of a lot of philanthropic activity, like the end of the calendar year, so your case for support has to be clear, on brand, and easy to act on immediately. Final point, online engagement with arts and culture is growing. Arts and culture led the way during the pandemic by offering a multitude of interesting and engaging content online while people were unable to attend in person. Online giving will continue to rise, and your website has to be ready. In closing, I'd like to personally thank you for the work that you do. Philanthropy drives arts and culture. Without donations, your organization would not be able to fulfill its mission, or at least not in the way it's fulfilling it now. Development is a challenging, ever-changing field, full of dynamic people who are looking to make a positive difference in the world. We face a lot of barriers, but we find ways to move forward in a meaningful way. I hope some of the ideas presented today will help you hone your e-philanthropy strategy so you can keep doing the great work that you do already.